One of my absolute favorite things to do in the space of comics is to celebrate a really fantastic modern run of stories on a particular character. Today, we actually got the conclusion of Christopher Cantwell and Angel Unzueta's landmark run on Iron Man, and I wanted to go ahead and celebrate with an in-depth review of the issue. My name is Ariko Braddock, and today let's go ahead and review Iron Man number 25/650. But before we get deeper into the video, want to go ahead and encourage you guys to consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. Also, please feel free to go ahead and click that like button. Now, before we get deeper into the video, want to go ahead and read off Marvel's solicitation text to give you a little bit more context behind the issue itself. An oversized celebration of the Golden Avengers 650th issue. It's Iron Man Day in New York City, but not everyone is ready to celebrate the ongoing legacy of Tony Stark, least of all him. But a sudden crisis will once again test Tony's heroism and challenge his commitment to the role he has assumed for himself. Must there be an Iron Man? Christopher Cantwell concludes his thought-provoking and powerful run as writer, as illustrated by Angel Unzueta. Plus, Murewa Ayodele, my apologies if I didn't get any of these names correct, and Dotun Akande tell a tale of Iron Man's quest to locate Thor amid the frozen wastelands of Niflheim. Kurt Busiek and Ben Dewey pair up to provide an all-new vintage Iron Man adventure from the distant past, featuring Madame Mask and the Radioactive Man, and get a special glimpse of what's coming up next for the Armored Avenger. Want to read off our full creative team for the issue, so want to start by reading off the main creative team on the main story here. This issue is written by Christopher Cantwell, illustrated by Angel Unzueta, and colored by Frank D'Armata. We have letters from VC's Joe Caramagna and a cover from Alex Ross. In addition, we have an additional story from Murewa Ayodele and Dotun Akande, as well as Kurt Busiek and Ben Dewey. Let's start by diving into kind of the main feature of the issue. First thing I want to do is show off this wonderful cover from Alex Ross. Let's go ahead and take a look at this cover from Adventures in Poor Taste. Thanks so much to them for providing these covers and kind of previews of the issues so fast. So first, I just want to take a moment and talk about this cover with you guys a little bit. This is the cover from Alex Ross, who I think draws some of the most kind of realistic covers in all of comics. It's really fantastic to see Iron Man striking a pose that is a little bit different than what we typically see. I think the perspective from Ross really helps here, because this issue is trying to be important. It's trying to be like a landmark issue for Marvel, not only because it's the 650th Iron Man issue, but mainly to me because it's the end of this really fantastic run of modern Iron Man comics. I've had just such a blast reading the Christopher Cantwell run on Iron Man. This series has gotten so deep and so dark with the character. Throughout Cantwell's run, he's been so introspective with Iron Man. I think my favorite part of this series has to be that first giant Books of Korvac storyline. But I think this series has done just a wonderful job diving even deeper into Tony's fractured mental state following that story, and it really had just an excellent time with this entire series, and encourage you guys to check it out. This was one of my absolute favorite titles over at Marvel as it was being published, and really helped establish the creators of Christopher Cantwell and Angel Unzueta for me. But that's just a little bit of background behind the issue. Really encourage you guys to start at the beginning. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this issue itself. So here's a look at some of the interior pages for the comic. I think what really struck me here, and what I probably should have expected going into this issue, was just a more introspective look at Tony Stark that Cantwell was going to weave kind of throughout the issue, because Tony has just been so kind of contemplative and has just been, really thinking through all of his problems, I think, ever since sort of like the Iron God incident. This issue kind of is centered around a special day commemorating Iron Man, and Tony just has a really hard time putting his ego aside and actually, coming to and celebrating the event itself. Plus, Tony is a little bit depressed after his kind of, failed, or maybe not on the best of terms relationship with Patsy Walker as kind of the issue progresses. And I think what this does is it allows Cantwell to kind of go to Tony at one of his lowest points and find, some way that Tony's going to be able to acclimate to his life. There's a lot of guilt that Tony feels throughout this issue, and he does know that, he needs to put away some of his pity and just move on with his life. But seeing that sense of conflict within him, I think, just evoked so many aspects of this character for me. In each issue, there's always something that Cantwell would do that I would relate with, within his characterization of Tony. Angel Unzueta, I've really enjoyed on the Iron Man interiors. Over in this issue, I think you're going to see some really kind of gorgeous penciling throughout. Now, one problem that I do kind of have with the artistic side of this series are the colors from Frank D'Armata. I think that the way Frank D'Armata's colors get really bright in some instances can sort of like detract from the issue. And it's strange because usually the problem should be coming from the pencils, but actually some of those issues are coming with the colors and the reflections of the actual color palette itself. That being said, I don't think the colors are enough to stop you from checking out the issue overall. This is, as I stated before, just a really strong characterization for Iron Man. This issue goes to some really dark places, but actually has, a positive ending and is able to really celebrate everything that this run has accomplished so far. There's some really interesting stories in the back of the issue. This particular story is actually written by Kurt Busiek and illustrated by Benjamin Dewey with letters from VC's Joe Caramagna. I think what this story essentially does is kind of tell a more retro Iron Man storyline. It really didn't strike me that much from a narrative perspective, but the throwback artwork from Dewey was absolutely gorgeous throughout the issue. Almost every single page in this backup story looks as beautiful as this one. One of the most exciting parts of this issue that I wasn't expecting at all is the story from Murawa Ayodele and Dotun Akande. They actually announced very stealthily in this issue that the duo are working on a brand new title called I Am Iron Man together. So this new I Am Iron Man series is focused on kind of fleshing out Iron Man throughout the years. So it's really kind of cool to see that issue was kind of stealthily announced over in this landmark run of the series. And I really liked the way that Ayodele was able to use kind of like Niflheim and some of those settings to really kind of bolster and increase the sense of legacy that this issue has overall. I was just really happy to see so many different elements kind of fuse and come together for this final issue of Iron Man. So overall, I am incredibly happy with Iron Man 25. I really think that the depth and complexity that Cantwell has used to flesh out Stark throughout his run is really represented well in this final issue of the series. The way that Tony has such a hard time kind of putting his ego aside and celebrating the achievements of his career is such a compelling character arc. And, the decisions that he makes instead of going to this momentous event is probably something that's going to stay with me for quite a long time. And I just love how Cantwell never seems to shy away from some of the ugly parts of, Tony's character or Iron Man's aesthetic. Even in this issue, we have a little bit of kind of a callback to Tony's alcoholism that he still struggles with every single day. And at the end of the day, it's really some of these small and minor nuances on the Iron Man property that really makes it something special for me. And I just want to say one more time, congratulations to Cantwell and Unzueta for delivering such an incredible run on this character. I know I'm going to be thinking about this run on the Iron Man title for probably years to come, to be honest, from the books of Korvac to the Iron God saga. So did you guys like this run and this issue as much as I did? I want you to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out our content, and we'll be back next week with more excellent comic book reviews. Thanks so much. Bye.